The day started like any other Tuesday. I'd just finished showing a three-bedroom ranch house to a young couple who couldn't stop arguing about the granite countertops. Nothing unusual there. After 12 years in a state, you learn that couples either bond over house hunting or discover they shouldn't be together. These two were definitely in the second category. I pulled into my driveway around 6:30, already thinking about dinner and maybe catching the game. But something felt off the moment I walked through the front door. The house was too quiet, yet somehow charged with energy, like the air before a thunderstorm. "Honey, I'm home," I called out, hanging my keys on the hook by the door. "In here." Her voice came from the living room, but it sounded different. Higher pitched, almost theatrical. I walked in to find her sitting on the edge of our couch, hands clasped in her lap, wearing this enormous smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The coffee table had been moved, and she'd arranged herself like she was posing for a photograph. Everything about the scene felt staged. "You're never going to believe what happened today," she said, practically bouncing in her seat. "Try me," I replied, setting down my briefcase and studying her face. She took what I can only describe as a dramatic pause, like she was waiting for a drum roll. Then she reached behind a throw pillow and pulled out a pregnancy test, holding it up like it was a winning lottery ticket. "We're having a baby." The words hung in the air between us. For exactly 3 seconds, I felt genuine confusion. Then my brain kicked into gear, and everything clicked into place with crystalline clarity. See, here's what she didn't know about me. 7 years ago, after my divorce from my first wife and watching my 2 kids struggle through that mess, I made a decision. I got a vasectomy. Clean, simple, permanent. I was 34, had my son and daughter from my previous marriage, and I was done. No more kids. No more complications. When I met her 2 years later, she was adamant about never wanting children. "Kids would ruin everything," she used to say. "I want to travel, focus on my career, enjoy our freedom." Perfect, I thought. We were on the same page. I never saw a reason to mention the procedure since we both agreed on no children. But now, watching her perform this elaborate charade, several things became crystal clear simultaneously. The late nights she'd been putting in at her marketing job. The mysterious phone calls that ended abruptly when I entered the room. The way she'd been distant and secretive for the past 3 months. The sudden interest in my work schedule, always asking when I'd be home late. She was studying my face intently, waiting for my reaction, analyzing every micro-expression to see if I was buying her performance. "Oh my God," I said, forcing my voice to crack with emotion. This is incredible." Her smile widened, and I could see the relief flood her features. "Hook, line, and sinker," she thought. "I know, right? I'm still in shock myself." She continued, really warming up to her role now. "I mean, we always said we didn't want kids, but sometimes life has other plans. Sometimes God has bigger plans for us." "God's plans," I repeated slowly, nodding like I was processing this earth-shattering news. "You know what? You're absolutely right. This changes everything." "It does," she agreed eagerly. "We'll need to start thinking about finances, about getting a bigger place maybe. I mean, babies are expensive. You'll probably need to pick up more shifts, work some weekends." There it was, the financial angle. She wasn't just trying to trap me with a pregnancy. She was planning to milk me dry while she was at it. "You know what?" I said, standing up slowly. "This is such amazing news that I think I should share something with you too. Something I've been keeping to myself." Her expression shifted slightly. A flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. "What do you mean?" "Hold that thought," I said, heading toward our bedroom. "I'll be right back. I have something to show you that's going to make this day even more surprising." I could hear her shifting nervously on the couch as I walked down the hallway. When I returned, I was carrying a manila folder that I'd kept in my filing cabinet for years. Medical records. Specifically, my vasectomy documentation from 7 years ago. I sat back down across from her, the folder in my lap, and looked directly into her eyes. "You know, it's funny how life works out," I said, my voice taking on a completely different tone. "Here you are, telling me about God's plans and unexpected pregnancies." I opened the folder and pulled out the medical documents. "But I have some news of my own." Her face went pale. 7 years ago, before I even met you, I had a vasectomy. Medically verified, documented, and confirmed with follow-up tests. I held up the papers. "It is literally impossible for me to father a child." The pregnancy test slipped from her fingers and clattered onto the coffee table. So here's my question. I continued, my voice now carrying the full weight of my authority. Who is he? The silence that followed was deafening. I watched her face cycle through emotions like a broken slot machine. Shock, panic, calculation, then back to panic. That's impossible, she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. The test is positive. I'm pregnant. It has to be yours. I leaned back in my chair, keeping my eyes locked on hers. Medical science says otherwise. Vasectomies are 99.9% effective, and mine was confirmed sterile multiple times. So I'll ask again, who is he? This is insane, she said, her voice getting higher. You're accusing me of cheating based on some old medical procedure? Doctors make mistakes all the time. Maybe it didn't work properly. Maybe it failed after all these years. Maybe, I said, nodding thoughtfully. Or maybe you've been lying to my face for months. She shot up from the couch, the pregnancy test falling to the floor. How can you even think that? How can you sit there and accuse me of something so horrible? I would never. Cut the act. I interrupted, my voice sharp enough to slice glass. The late nights at work, the mysterious phone calls, the way you've been asking about my schedule constantly, the sudden distance between us. You think I'm stupid? Those are just coincidences. I've been working on a big campaign. You know that. And the phone calls are from clients. You're being paranoid. I stood up slowly, still holding the medical documents. Paranoid? You just announced a pregnancy that's medically impossible and expected me to prepare my bank account for it. And when I present proof that it can't be mine, you start talking about God's plans and medical miracles. Her eyes darted around the room like she was looking for an escape route. Look, I know this is confusing, but there has to be an explanation. Maybe we should see a doctor together. Get a second opinion. Actually, you know what? You're right about God having plans, I said, my voice taking on a dangerous edge. Because his plan apparently included giving me a vasectomy 7 years ago that would protect me from exactly this kind of situation. Don't bring God into this, she snapped, her mask slipping for just a moment. Don't bring God into this. I repeated, my voice rising. You're the one who mentioned God's plans when you were trying to sell me this lie. You're the one who thought you could use divine intervention as your cover story. She tried a different approach, her voice softening, eyes filling with crocodile tears. Honey, please. I know this is shocking, but we can work through this. Maybe the vasectomy wasn't as effective as you thought. These things happen. We just need to. Stop. The word came out like a gunshot. Just stop. Don't insult my intelligence any further. I walked closer to her, my voice dropping to a deadly calm. You have exactly one chance to tell me the truth. Because I'm about to make some phone calls of my own, and when I start digging, everything is going to come out anyway. Every lie, every secret, every moment you thought you were being clever. Her hands were shaking now. You're scaring me. Good. You should be scared. Because attempting to commit paternity fraud is not just morally disgusting. It's also illegal in most states. So here's how this is going to work. You're going to sit down, and you're going to tell me everything. Who is he? How long has this been going on? And how exactly did you think you were going to pull this off? She collapsed back onto the couch, her whole body trembling. For a long moment, she just stared at the floor, probably calculating her options and realizing she didn't have any good ones. It's not what you think, she finally whispered. Then tell me what it is. She looked up at me with genuine fear in her eyes now. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. But it wasn't supposed to happen like this. Who is he? Another long pause. Then, so quietly, I almost didn't hear it. Nathan Carlson from my work. Nathan Carlson. I knew that name. She'd mentioned him before. The creative director at her marketing firm. Married with kids. How long? I asked. 3 months, she whispered. 3 months, I repeated. So this entire pregnancy timeline fits perfectly with when you started acting different. She nodded miserably. And you thought what? That you could just pin it on me and I'd never figure it out. I don't know, she said, starting to cry for genuine this time. I wasn't thinking clearly. I was scared and stupid and greedy, I finished. Don't forget greedy. You were already talking about me working weekends and picking up extra shifts to support this kid that isn't even mine. She looked up at me with something approaching hope. But we can fix this. We can work through this. It was just a mistake and fix this. I stared at her in disbelief. You want to fix this? You tried to trap me into raising another man's child. You tried to commit fraud. You've been lying to my face for 3 months. What exactly do you think there is to fix?" The hope died in her eyes as she finally understood what she'd done to herself. "But wait," I said, a terrible thought occurring to me. "You said Nathan from work. Isn't he married?" She nodded again, not meeting my eyes. "So you destroyed our marriage for a guy who's never going to leave his wife for you. That's just perfect." The full weight of her situation was starting to sink in. I could see it in her face. The married lover who would run for the hills the moment he found out about the pregnancy. The husband she'd just attempted to defraud who now knew everything. The web of lies that was about to collapse around her. But I wasn't done yet. "Actually, let me ask you something else," I said, pacing slowly in front of her. "Are you absolutely certain Nathan is the father?" The question hit her like a physical blow. Her face went from pale to green. "What do you mean?" she whispered. "I mean, if you were willing to lie to me for 3 months, sleep around behind my back, and then try to pin the kid on me, what makes you think Nathan is going to believe he's the only one?" Her silence was all the answer I needed. "There's someone else, isn't there?" She buried her face in her hands. "Oh God, don't you dare bring God into your mess again," I snapped. "How many men are we talking about here?" "2." She sobbed into her hands. "Just 2. Just 2." I repeated slowly. "So you don't even know who the father is. You were going to make me raise a child, destroy my financial stability, change my entire life, and you don't even know whose kid it is." "It was a mistake," she cried. "Everything got so confusing and complicated and—" "Stop right there." My voice cut through her excuses like a blade. "Don't you dare call this a mistake. A mistake is putting salt in your coffee instead of sugar. This is betrayal. This is fraud. This is calculated deception." I walked over to the window, looking out at our quiet neighborhood street. Normal families living normal lives. Meanwhile, my wife had been running around like she was starring in some twisted soap opera. "Who's the other guy?" I asked without turning around. "Does it matter?" I spun around to face her. "It matters because I want to know exactly how far this rabbit hole goes. I want to know exactly what kind of person I married." She was quiet for so long I thought she might not answer. Then, barely audible, "Victor Webb." "Victor Webb." I didn't know that name, which somehow made it worse. "Who is Victor Webb?" He's a trainer at my gym." "Your gym?" I said slowly. "The gym you joined 3 months ago because you suddenly wanted to get in shape." She nodded miserably. "So let me get this straight. You joined a gym, started sleeping with your trainer, also started sleeping with Nathan from work, got pregnant, and decided the best solution was to trick your husband into thinking it was his. Does that about cover it?" "When you say it like that, it sounds exactly like what it is," I interrupted. "It sounds like you turned our marriage into a complete joke while I was working my tail off to build us a life together." I sat down across from her again, but this time I felt something different. Not just anger, but disgust. Complete, overwhelming disgust. "You know what the worst part is?" I said quietly. "I loved you. I genuinely loved you. I thought we were partners. I thought we were building something together. And the whole time, you were out there making a fool of me." "I love you too," she said desperately. "That's why we can work through this. People make mistakes, and if we just don't—" I held up my hand. "Don't insult my intelligence any further. You don't love me. You love my stability. You love my paycheck. You love having someone to fall back on when your affairs don't work out. But you don't love me. That's not true. Then explain to me how someone who loves their husband spends 3 months sleeping with 2 different men and then tries to trick him into raising their child." She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it. For the first time in this entire conversation, she had nothing to say. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued, my voice deadly calm. "You're going to pack your things. You're going to leave my house. Tonight. And this marriage is over." "No." She jumped up from the couch. "No, you can't just throw away 3 years of marriage over this. We can go to counseling. We can work through this. I'll end things with both of them. I'll do whatever it takes." "You'll end things with both of them?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "How generous of you. How noble. You'll stop cheating on me if I agree to raise another man's child." "I'll get a paternity test," she said desperately. "We'll figure out who the father is, and then what? You'll go crawling to whichever one of them is the biological father? You think Nathan's going to leave his wife and kids for you? You think Victor the gym trainer is looking to settle down with someone who was married when she got pregnant with his kid?" The reality of her situation was finally sinking in. I could see it in her eyes. The dawning realization that she'd burned every bridge, destroyed every safety net. All for what? 3 months of excitement? Please, she whispered. I'm begging you. Don't do this. I have nowhere to go. You should have thought about that before you decided to torpedo our marriage, I replied. You made your choices. Now you get to live with the consequences. But I'm pregnant. You can't just throw a pregnant woman out on the street. Watch me, I said, standing up. You have 2 hours to pack whatever you can carry. Everything else we'll sort out through lawyers. Lawyers? Her voice cracked. You're really going to divorce me? I'm not going to divorce you, I corrected. I already am divorcing you. This conversation is just a courtesy to let you know what's happening. I started walking toward the kitchen to get myself a drink, but her voice stopped me. What am I supposed to do? I turned back to look at her one last time. She was sitting on our couch, still holding that pregnancy test, tears streaming down her face. But they weren't the same theatrical tears from her announcement. These were tears of genuine panic. The tears of someone who had just realized they destroyed their own life. Honestly, I said, I don't care what you do. You're not my problem anymore. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in my office reviewing property listings when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello. Is this about your ex-wife? The voice was unfamiliar, nervous. Who is this? Nathan Carlson. I think we need to talk. I leaned back in my chair. This was going to be interesting. What can I do for you, Nathan? Look, I heard about what happened. About this situation. And I need you to know that I had no idea she was going to try something like that. Something like what exactly? There was a pause, trying to pin the pregnancy on you. I had no idea she was married when we started, when this began. She told me she was separated. I almost laughed. Separated? That's a new one. I'm serious. She said you two were getting divorced, that you were living apart, that it was just a matter of paperwork. I never would have gotten involved if I'd known the truth. Well, now you know the truth. What do you want from me? Nothing, he said quickly. I just wanted you to know that I'm done with her. Completely done. When she told me about the pregnancy, and then about what she tried to do to you. I can't be part of that. So you're abandoning her too? I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm protecting my family. My wife, my kids. This woman lied to both of us. I can't have someone like that in my life. After he hung up, I sat there for a moment processing the call. Nathan had thrown her under the bus faster than I'd expected. That left Victor, the gym trainer. I didn't have to wait long to hear about that situation either. My neighbor Fletcher had mentioned seeing a moving truck at our house the day after I kicked her out. She'd gone to stay with her sister across town. But apparently, that arrangement hadn't lasted long either. The full picture came together when I ran into Bryant Walsh, a guy I knew who worked at the same gym where she'd been a member. We were grabbing coffee at the same place we'd met a few times before when he brought it up. Hey, isn't that your wife who was seeing Victor over at our gym? He asked casually. Ex-wife, I corrected. And yeah, I heard about that. Man, that whole thing blew up spectacularly. Victor wanted nothing to do with her once he found out she was married and pregnant. Dude has a girlfriend he's been with for 2 years. Apparently, your ex told him she was single. She seems to have told everyone she was single. Yeah, well, when the truth came out, Victor's girlfriend nearly beat her down in the parking lot. Had to call security and everything. Your ex got her membership revoked and was banned from the property. Banned from the gym? Permanent ban. Created too much drama. Victor's girlfriend works there part-time at the front desk, so they weren't about to keep someone around who was causing problems for their employees. The picture was becoming clearer. Nathan had cut contact to protect his marriage. Victor had cut contact to protect his relationship. She was pregnant, homeless, and running out of people to turn to. But I wasn't done hearing about her downward spiral. A few days later, I got a call from Claire Phillips, her former boss at the marketing firm. I'm calling as a professional courtesy, Claire said. I wanted you to know that we had to let her go. Let her go. The situation with Nathan created a hostile work environment. He's our creative director, been with us for 8 years, has a family. She was a junior account executive who'd been here less than 2 years. When everything came to light, we had to make a choice. What exactly came to light? That she was having an affair with a married coworker, lying about her personal situation to multiple people, and creating drama that was affecting team dynamics. Nathan's wife called the office demanding answers. It became a mess. So now she was jobless too. Claire continued. I also wanted to apologize. Nathan told us what she tried to do to you, claiming the pregnancy was yours when she knew it wasn't. That's just, I can't even imagine. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I appreciate that. For what it's worth, I don't think anyone here is going to give her a good reference. What she did was unconscionable. After that call, I realized she'd managed to destroy every aspect of her life in the span of 3 months. Her marriage, her home, her job, her relationships with both men she'd been seeing. And for what? A few months of excitement that had cost her everything. The final piece of the puzzle came from an unexpected source. Her sister Melody called me directly. I need you to know that she can't stay with me anymore, Melody said without preamble. Okay. She's been lying to everyone, including me. She told me you threw her out for no reason, that you were being controlling and abusive. But then Nathan called me directly and told me what actually happened. Nathan called you? He was trying to find her after she started showing up at his office building. His company had to get a restraining order. He called me hoping I could talk sense into her. A restraining order. She was stalking Nathan now. She's been living in a fantasy world, Melody continued. Thinking Nathan was going to leave his wife for her. Thinking Victor was going to step up and play father. When both of them cut contact, she started getting desperate. How desperate? She maxed out her credit cards trying to hire a private investigator to find dirt on Nathan's wife. She thought if she could break up his marriage, he'd come back to her. The PI took her money and told her there was nothing to find. I felt a mixture of disbelief and disgust. She's completely lost it. That's why I can't have her here anymore. She's pregnant, broke, jobless, and honestly, I think she's having some kind of breakdown. She needs professional help, not a place to crash while she plots revenge against everyone who's rejected her. So where is she going? I don't know, and frankly, I don't care anymore. I've got my own family to think about. I can't have someone this unstable around my kids. After Melody hung up, I sat in my quiet house and thought about the woman I'd married. 3 years together, and I'd never suspected she was capable of this level of deception and self-destruction. She'd gambled everything on a plan that was doomed from the start, and now she was facing the consequences alone. No husband, no job, no home, no support system, and a pregnancy that neither potential father wanted anything to do with. The irony wasn't lost on me. She tried to trap me into supporting her and another man's child, and instead, she'd managed to ensure that no one would support her. 3 weeks into this mess, I was grilling burgers in my backyard when I heard the front doorbell. I wasn't expecting anyone, but when I opened the door, I found someone I definitely hadn't expected to see. Christine, I said, genuinely surprised to see my ex-wife standing on my porch. Hey, she said with a slight smile. Can we talk? Christine and I had been divorced for 8 years, but we'd managed to maintain a decent relationship for the sake of our kids. She was remarried now to a good guy named Bradley, and they seemed happy together. But this was the first time she'd ever shown up at my house unannounced. Of course, come in. She followed me into the living room, glancing around at the space that had been shared with another woman for the past 3 years. I heard about what happened, she said without preamble. Dylan told me. Dylan was our 17-year-old son. He and his younger sister Emma split their time between Christine's house and mine on a regular schedule. What exactly did Dylan tell you? That your wife tried to pass off another man's baby as yours, and that you had medical proof she was lying. Christine shook her head. I had to hear it from our son because I couldn't believe it when he first told me. I sank into my chair, suddenly feeling tired. Yeah, that about sums it up. I'm so sorry, she said, and her voice carried genuine sympathy. I know how much you wanted that marriage to work. It's done now. Is it really? I mean, are you okay? The question caught me off guard. Christine and I had our problems during our marriage, but she'd never been cruel or manipulative. Our divorce had been about growing apart, not about betrayal or deception. I'm getting there, I said honestly. Good, because I want you to know something. She leaned forward in her chair. What she did to you was unforgivable. Absolutely unforgivable. And Dylan and Emma feel the same way. They do. They're furious. Emma especially. She really liked her, you know? She thought she was going to have a stepmom who cared about the family. When she found out the truth, Christine shook her head. I've never seen Emma so angry. Emma was 15 and had always been protective of people she cared about. I could imagine her reaction. Dylan's been worried about you, Christine continued. He wanted to come talk to you himself, but he wasn't sure if you'd want to discuss it. You know how he is about emotional stuff. He doesn't have to worry about me. Yes, he does. You're his father, and he's proud of how you handled this situation. Proud, he said, and I quote, Dad didn't let her play him like a fool. He saw right through her lies and kicked her out immediately. That's how a man should handle betrayal. I felt something in my chest loosen slightly. I'd been worried about how this would affect my relationship with my kids. Emma said something similar, Christine added. She said she was proud to have a father who wouldn't let someone take advantage of him. I appreciate that. Christine stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the backyard where I'd been grilling. You know, when we got divorced, I was angry for a while. But looking back, we were just two people who grew in different directions. We never lied to each other. We never tried to hurt each other intentionally. What she did to you, she turned back to face me. That's not just the end of a marriage. That's betrayal on a level I can't even comprehend. It's over now, is it? Because Dylan mentioned she's been trying to contact you. I hadn't mentioned that to anyone, but apparently nothing got past my teenage son. She's called a few times. Sent some texts. I don't respond. Good. Don't. Christine's voice was firm. That woman tried to trap you into raising another man's child. There's no coming back from that. Ever. We talked for another hour. She told me that both kids wanted to spend more time at my house for a while to make sure I was okay. She offered to help with anything I needed during the divorce proceedings. Most surprisingly, she offered to be a character witness if it came to that. A character witness? To testify that you're a good man, a good father, and that what she did was completely out of line. If her lawyer tries to paint you as the bad guy for throwing out a pregnant woman, I'll set the record straight. After she left, I sat in my quiet house and realized something had shifted. For the first time since this whole mess started, I didn't feel alone. I felt supported, protected, even. My phone buzzed with a text from Dylan. Dad, if you need anything, just call. I'm proud of you for not letting her get away with that. Then another from Emma. Love you, Dad. You deserve so much better than what she did to you. The next evening, Dylan showed up with a pizza and his homework. Thought I'd hang out here tonight, he said casually, but I could see the concern in his eyes. You don't have to babysit me. I'm not babysitting. I genuinely want to be here. Besides, Mom's making Bradley watch some romantic comedy tonight, and I'd rather do algebra than sit through that. We ate pizza and talked about everything except my situation. But just having him there, treating me normally, made me realize how much I'd needed that normalcy. Dad, he said as he was packing up his books. Yeah, I know this is weird to say, but I'm kind of glad this happened now instead of later. What do you mean? I mean, imagine if you'd found out after the baby was born. Imagine if you'd spent months or years raising a kid that wasn't yours before you discovered the truth. At least this way, you found out before she could really damage your life. My 17-year-old son was showing wisdom beyond his years. You're absolutely right. Plus, he added with a slight grin, now we know you've still got good instincts. You saw right through her act. After he left, I realized that what I'd thought was the worst day of my life had actually been a blessing in disguise. Not just because I'd discovered the truth, but because it had shown me what genuine support looked like. My ex-wife, who owed me nothing, had come to offer her help. My kids, who could have been embarrassed by the drama, were proud of how I'd handled it. I had people in my corner who actually cared about my well-being. Meanwhile, my soon-to-be ex-wife was facing her pregnancy alone, with no job, no home, and no one left to manipulate. The contrast couldn't have been more stark. 6 months later, I was closing on a major commercial property deal when my lawyer Griffin Hayes called with news I'd been expecting. Divorce is finalized, he said. She didn't contest anything in the end. Good. Also, thought you'd want to know, she had the baby last week. A boy. I felt nothing. No curiosity, no regret, nothing. That chapter of my life was completely closed. The paternity test confirmed it was Victor's, Griffin continued. But he's still refusing any involvement. Signed away his parental rights immediately. What about Nathan? Never was a candidate once the dates were confirmed. Turns out their affair ended before she got pregnant. So she'd been left with exactly what she deserved. Nothing. My life, meanwhile, had taken a completely different trajectory. The real estate market had been good to me, and without the financial drain of supporting someone who was actively working against me, I'd managed to save more money in 6 months than I had in the previous 2 years. Dylan had gotten into his first choice college with a partial scholarship. Emma was excelling in school and had started joining me on property showings, showing genuine interest in the business. Both kids spent more time at my house now, not out of obligation, but because they wanted to. Christine and I had developed an even better co-parenting relationship. Bradley had become a genuine friend, and their marriage seemed stronger than ever. It was proof that mature adults could create healthy family dynamics when everyone involved had good intentions. Last month, I'd started dating again. Nothing serious yet, but I'd met Lauren Sinclair at a neighborhood barbecue. She was a divorced teacher with 2 kids of her own, and we'd been taking things slow. The difference was night and day. Honest communication, no games, no hidden agendas. "You seem lighter," Dylan had observed after meeting her. "Like you're actually enjoying yourself instead of just going through the motions." He was right. I hadn't realized how much energy I'd been spending trying to make a dysfunctional relationship work. 2 weeks ago, I'd run into her sister Melody at the grocery store. The conversation was brief but illuminating. "She's struggling," Melody said without me asking. "Single mom, working at a call center, living in a studio apartment across town. The baby's father wants nothing to do with either of them." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, and I meant it. I didn't wish homelessness or poverty on anyone. "She asks about you sometimes. Wonders if you ever think about her." "I don't." Melody nodded. I figured. For what it's worth, I think she finally understands what she threw away. But understanding and deserving forgiveness are 2 different things. They are. Walking to my truck that day, I reflected on how different my life looked now compared to 6 months ago. I had my self-respect intact, a stronger relationship with my kids, financial stability, and the freedom to build something authentic with someone new. She had a baby she was raising alone, a minimum wage job, no support system, and the knowledge that she'd destroyed the best thing in her life for 3 months of lies. The vasectomy I'd gotten 7 years ago, the decision that had saved me from her trap, now felt like the smartest choice I'd ever made. Not just because it protected me from fraud, but because it had revealed her true character before I wasted any more years on someone who saw me as a paycheck instead of a partner. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is discovering the truth about someone before it's too late. I'd built a good life once. I was building a better one now. And this time, I knew exactly what to look for and what to avoid.